You know by now that creating videos in PowerPoint is all about adding and ordering animations in a cool way. Easier said than done, I assure you. In this video, we're going to take an in-depth look into timing animations. The example we'll use is a pool cue hitting billiard balls. If you want to follow along, you can download the source file in the download section of this lecture. Let's have a look.
As I've alluded to in previous videos, you can view all animations that are added to objects on a specific slide by clicking the Animations tab and then clicking the Animation Pane button. You'll notice that I've already added a few animations. When I click the Play button in the Animation Pane, you can preview what's already happening. I've already added the animations that bring the different objects onto the screen, a series of fades with a few fly-ins. You will also notice in the Animations tab that you can set a delay, select the duration for the effect to finish, and select a start option. There are a couple of start options. Start on click is the default start option and indicates that the animation will begin when you, as the presenter, click your mouse. Obviously, we won't be using any of these as videos can't manually click. Start with previous sets the animation to take effect as soon as the previous animation takes effect. In other words, this setting combines multiple effects at the same time. And start after previous sets the animation to take effect as soon as the previous animation finishes. To set a start option, click the wanted animation in the animation menu and use the drop down to the right of start to select. This is the same process you will use to set the duration of an animation or add a delay. Now that we know how to customize an animation, we can get back to our example. The first thing we want to do is make the pool cue look like it's winding up, which will be a series of motion paths moving the object up and down. Click the pool cue, click Add Animation, and from the drop-down, select Line. As you can see, this animation will make the pool cue move downward by default. Repeat the same steps, but this time, be sure to change the direction of the line in the Effect options to up. You'll notice on the slide that the lines have both a red and green arrow. For each effect, the green arrow is where the object starts, and the red arrow is where the object ends. However, as you can see when we preview the animations, the way these arrows are set make the object's movement pretty wonky. We can fix this issue by moving the path down so that where the object ends after the downward line is the place where the object begins for the upward line. Do this by clicking and dragging the line of the motion path. We want the cue to do one more round of up and down. Click the cue and add two more motion paths. Be sure to toggle between upward and downward directions. Also, be sure to drag the paths down so that they line up with the first two paths that you've put in. Note also that the final upward path is going to need to end a bit further than the first upward path in order to appear as if the pool cue is connecting with the cue ball. You can do this by clicking and dragging the red triangle up. The next bit we need to animate is the cue ball moving upward as soon as the cue stick appears to hit it, and then edit the billiard balls to make them appear to scatter. Click the cue ball and add an upward motion path. Be sure to shorten the path so that it stops as it hits the billiard balls. Also, note that the tip of the red triangle on the motion path indicates where the center of the object ends. We'll now animate the billiard balls in the order to which they should move. Using even more motion paths, I'll direct the back corner balls to move off of the slide, and I'll subsequently add shorter motion paths to the center row. The last thing I'm going to do is add a few spins to the center row to make it seem a little more realistic. Spinning is, of course, an emphasis effect. Since I know that I'm going to make the spin effects run at the same time as the motion path, I'll be sure to order them after the motion paths for each image. I'm also going to reduce the spin length from full spins to quarter or half spins. As I'm sure you remember, this is done in the Effect options. As you can see when we preview the animations, it doesn't flow very well when everything is set to on-mouse click. To get us started, let's change all of the effects to after previous. The game now is to go through and change the duration and timing of each effect. We can decrease the wind-up effect to go a bit quicker. After the cue ball is hit, it should move towards the billiard balls faster. And the billiard balls should all move a bit slower. Now what we need to do is set the animations that should be activated simultaneously. All of the billiard balls should virtually move together, so we'll change the start times of those to with previous. You'll notice when we preview the animations that when the cue stick hits the cue ball, it's a bit choppy. We can make this a bit smoother by changing the start effect from after previous to with previous and then add a very small delay.
That's a lot better than flying in and out a star, right? Of course, there are some small tweaks to the timing you could do to make it flow even better. Let's have a look at the finished product. With fades, motion paths, and a few emphasis effects, there is very little that you can't do by way of a cool video in PowerPoint. The trick now is to play around enough to learn what can and cannot be done. But I won't leave you hanging. After a few more important instructional videos, we'll create a sample video from start to finish where I'll show you a few of my go-to tricks.